and welcome to Brave Talks. I'm Gabby and I'll be your host for this episode. The Mental Health First Aid programme began in Australia in 2000 and has since evolved into a global movement, with nearly 700,000 people trained in the UK to provide mental health first aid to their teams. Mental health first aiders are trained to identify the signs and symptoms of mental health issues, provide initial support, and connect individuals with professional help where needed. They play a critical role in breaking down the stigma surrounding mental illness, empowering individuals to seek help, and promoting a culture of understanding and compassion. Today, I'm joined by Emma Threlfall, who will be sharing their very personal story on why they made the journey to becoming a mental health first aider and how organisations can do more to help. So sit back and relax. This is Brave Talks. Let's dive in. Hi, my name's Gabby and welcome to Brave Talks. And today I'm joined by Emma, our lovely HR coordinator, who is also our mental health first aider. So, Emma, first question of the day is, who is Emma?
I am a wife, I am a mother, I am a very passionate person. I have so much empathy. I want to help people. I care about everyone. And I'm dyspraxic as well. I like bright colours and I like clothes with pockets.
The mental health first aid programme first started in Australia in the 2000s, and now it's a global movement. So what inspired you to get involved as a mental health first aider at work?
Believe it or not, it's not something that I even thought of. It was another member of staff come up to me. I was speaking with them about trivial stuff and they said, "You'd be a really good mental health first aider." And I actually laughed it off. I went, "No, I won't, don't be daft." And then our old mental health first aider, they left and there became an opening. And this same person come back to me and went, "I really do think you should go for it." And it made me wonder and made me think. Being within HR, I come up with a lot of scenarios and situations where I can come across people that are upset or in crisis or whatever. And I thought it might be a good move because then I can help somebody in the time of need. And I've always been a compassionate, really friendly, open person. And if someone's upset, I want to do everything I can to try and help and support them.
Yeah, so you think that having that kind of service in work is important?
Absolutely. It's something that I actually undervalued to start with. I knew it was something that staff would want, and I know it's something that staff need. It's not just a want, it's a need. To be able to have a safe environment to talk openly about how they are feeling and what's going on with them at the time, regardless of if someone else thinks it's minor, to them it's big.
You've also volunteered for a major crisis line. What was your journey like to becoming somebody who works on a crisis line, and how has that affected how you do your mental health first aid at work? Is there a crossover, a correlation?
I think there is. So I went for the mental health first aid first. I looked into doing that and I looked to do the course. But I'd always wanted to join like a crisis team or a support line because I know what it's like to be in the desperate need just to listen to somebody just say it will be okay or I'm just going to talk, anything. And you don't always know where to go, and you need to know that the person that you're going to phone up and the person you're going to speak to is going to be compassionate, is not going to judge what you're going to say, is going to be open-minded. And those are all the qualities I believe that I had. And knowing how much I needed it, I thought other people may. So that's why I thought I'll go in for a crisis team. So I put my application through. In the January, I kept it very quiet. I didn't even tell anyone at work at the time because I was nervous. I was worried about not getting through or telling people and then being rejected and the disappointment that may follow. So I started that in January, and I went to an open day, and it was a lot more involved, in depth than I anticipated. But there was nothing that scared me. They didn't say anything that made me go, I can't do this. I just handled it like I would a mental health issue, going, yep, okay. And then I done 2 rounds of interviews, and they accepted me. And then I started the training, which was a lot more intense. There was hours upon hours. I'm talking 200 hours of voluntary training before you were even allowed near a phone, purely to make sure that you've got the best training, because you never know what's going to happen when you pick up that phone.
Yes. So has your training with that crisis line helped you become a better mental health first aider, do you think?
Massively. It's been invaluable. I mean, the mental health first aider course itself was really, really good. It was a 2-day course, but the training I'd done through the crisis line gave you so many things of what to do. I mean, I think the most valuable lesson that I took away from that is silence is golden, which is basically you need to stop and you need to allow the person to talk. Sometimes that void between two people can be a good void because it allows them to make sure everything's out. And I was told that is one of the hardest lessons you can learn, and I can confirm it is, because sometimes the gap can feel very awkward. But when you allow it, more comes out, and the person talking or the person in the crisis is able to get out everything they need to, and they then feel better, and you can hear it in them.
Is the events in your history or things that have happened, things that you've gone through that have made you be the kind of person that wants to help others with their mental health? Is it dictated by things that have happened in the past?
Yes. So I had awful, horrific mental health when I was younger. In my late teens, I thought that I could cure myself with alcohol to start with. That did not work. And sadly, I took a downward spiral after that. And I did start to self-harm myself to start with. And the self-harming wasn't quite what I needed, but I carried on doing it because to me it helped. It's an unusual feeling. If you've never been through it and you've never experienced it or been around someone, you can't quite explain it. So that aspect is something that I'd never say to someone, I understand what you're going through, because you don't, but you can show the empathy. And then the self-harming escalated to trying to kill myself. And it wasn't just once, it was multiple times. And it was awful being classed as someone that was, I was suicidal. There was no other word for it. And the turning point, believe it or not, was a paramedic. Yeah. It was a gentleman that picked me up, and he turned to me and went, I've been where you are. And I was laying on a gurney and I was crying, I was scared. And he said to me, I've been where you are, and do you know what? There is a way out. And I looked at this guy and I thought, hold on, you're a paramedic, you're someone of importance here. And you've managed to escape this, and look at the life you've now got. And I genuinely think that was the last time that I decided to take my own life, because I just thought I could still succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it takes a lot of personal strength to take those kind of traumas in your history and the when you're in a state of bad mental health, it can feel like there's no other way out, or that no matter what you do, you are never going to feel any different. And yes, thankfully there are support networks and stuff out there. So to take all that's happened and turn that into something that helps other people takes a huge amount of strength, and we're incredibly proud. I'm incredibly proud. So obviously working within the company and working on the lines, the crisis lines, you obviously work with people and support people from diverse backgrounds. and diverse communities. Um, has it highlighted the need for cultural sensitivity and sensitivity towards people who are coming from a completely different walk of life and how to support them?
It absolutely has. It's really surprised me because I've learnt so many things to do with multicultural stuff, something that wouldn't occur to me as a white British woman of another culture. For instance, I found out recently, I'm not sure which culture it is, but the male names the baby and the partner doesn't know until the baby's born. This to some people sounds alien. I was fascinated. I thought that this was a tradition I'd never heard of, but I'm also going to respect this and not judge or criticise or put in how I feel. I just want to make sure that that person, I said, okay, if that's part of your culture, I respect that. And I think that's really key because you're going to find things out that you didn't know previously. You're going to listen to things that in some cultures are totally normal and common. For us, might sound strange. I think we have to approach this with a very open mind, going in without judging, without prejudice, and without the stupid facial expressions that that even though you're not saying it, your face is saying it. Training your face is a whole thing that you've got to learn.
Yeah, I think it allows then people of different cultures and backgrounds who would fear being judged because things they do are different. I think being able to open up to somebody who just goes, okay, and approaches it with curiosity must be so refreshing and enables them to then actually talk about how they're really feeling.
Absolutely. I mean, since my training, I've always had empathy, but I've always approached a situation of come talk to me. I'll listen to you. Come on. As in, I think I was forceful, but I didn't realise I was being forceful, but in a nice way, thinking that I'll get them to sit down, I'll get them to talk to me, I'll get them to open up to me. Guess what? That doesn't work. You have to go, okay, I am here to listen, and then walk away. And then maybe go back a few days later or a few hours later going, how you doing? And slowly but surely, people open up to you. The training I've received through being a mental health first aider and through the crisis line has definitely opened my eyes to that. No, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And that's what I'm doing. I'm showing them that they've got a safe environment where they can talk about anything that's going on in their mind, whether it's work stresses and pressures, stuff going on at home, to suicidal thoughts and feelings. I can explore these and I can listen to them and I'm not going to judge because I've got the empathy to sit there and to go, okay, what else would you like to tell me? And I always end the conversation with, thank you very much for telling me. I'm really glad you told me, because it makes them feel that what they've said is important. And I'm really glad that they've opened up to me. And I just hoped that I can help them because I know sometimes I can't. And to go away with that knowledge, to know that I've done everything I can, I've advised them as much as I can, or I've just listened as much as I can. It's a real sense of purpose and a real sense of being. It's given me more than I ever thought I could imagine, and it's nice.
So there's an obvious reward for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think there are any other rewards for you or for the person you're talking to or for the company for having a mental health first aider in work?
When I first became a mental health first aider within the workplace, I think I had one person come to me, and this one person was someone that just popped in here and there. Since then, which has only been about, 6 months or so, I now have 4 regular people that I catch up with. I now have random people messaging, this is going on, can I chat with you? Of course you can. And I've had conversations that I never thought I'd ever have with these people because they trust me and they believe what I'm going to say to them, and I can signpost them to other organisations that can help them more. But then doing the crisis line on top of that, I hear it all the time. Thank you so much for just listening. And sometimes I'm just making noises, as in, okay. How does that make you feel? Because sometimes that question, how are you? How does that make you feel? That's all that some people just want. They want someone to acknowledge their struggles, their problems. And I think it just creates a better working environment because it shows we care of our staff. We care about not only their physical being, but their mental health.
Yeah, I think it's vitally important because we, as a company, obviously we do have a duty of care to prevent our colleagues from harm. Now, a lot of companies in the past have just put health and safety measures in place. We make sure there's no slips, trips, and falls. But I think it's a really good thing now that people are starting to consider the mental health of their colleagues. And I'm incredibly proud that we've got a mental health first aider and that people are using that and feel safe using that. Looking back on your experiences, what advice would you give to people who are just starting to investigate their own mental health or just starting to consider whether they should become a mental health first aider themselves? Do you have any advice or anything for the people?
Well, to answer your first question, seeking about their own mental health, you can't pour from an empty cup. That is the main point. You are so much more important. You can't help others if you can't help yourself. So concentrating on yourself, thinking of your own mental health, seeing what's out there to support yourself. Once you can do that successfully and you know what's out there and you know a little bit more about yourself, I think then you can look to be a mental health first aider or even volunteer for a crisis line doing that. Because if not, quite quickly you could come across scenarios that could be quite triggering to you. For instance, if you've lost somebody recently and then you try and talk to somebody that's lost someone, it could make you not know how to deal with those feelings. It could turn in that the other person is then counselling you, and that's not a situation that you want to be in. You're going to come across situations that are going to trigger you, but it's how you deal with them at the time and how you cope with them. It's really difficult to advise someone on something when you're so passionate about it, especially somebody that could have started self-harming themselves. That could be very triggering and that could be quite scary because you do automatically go and think, I remember being in that headspace. I remember how scared I was. I remember not knowing where to turn. I remember thinking everyone's going to think I'm mad because that's how I felt. But that person's different. And knowing that you've got to suppress your own feelings, and then once you've helped that person, you can go away and reflect on what you've said and how you've dealt with it, and you get to improve that way as well.
So would you definitely say that training and just going out and getting advice from anywhere so you know exactly where you need to be on your own journey before you can help others?
Absolutely. I mean, if you are struggling yourself, you're not going to be able to help someone successfully. Or if you do help them, you may not be able to help them to the best of your abilities. Going out there and finding the knowledge is absolutely crucial to being able to help yourself and to help others. You are more important, you really are. So what I would advise someone to do is to make sure they're okay, to make sure they can handle their own demons in their lives and any issues that they've had in the past. So if they do come up in conversations, that you can handle that okay. Yes, you might go home at the end of the day and cry, but that's okay too. That happens, and it's perfectly fine to let your emotions out, but not in the middle of maybe helping someone.
So I was thinking earlier, obviously you have a mental health first aid at work, you do the crisis lines. So what message would you like to give anybody who is having a personal struggle and is maybe thinking twice about contacting a mental health first aider or a crisis line because they think that I'm not suicidal, somebody else is more important, somebody needs it more, or am I really in enough of a crisis to go to a crisis line or a mental health first aider? What would you say to people who are doubting whether they should use a service?
That's a really good question. I mean, on the crisis line, you wouldn't believe how many people turn around and apologise for phoning or phone up and go, I can't do this. And the first thing I said is, you've already done it. You phoned up and you're already doing really well. Whether they don't tell me the problem at the time, that's okay. But I had a conversation with a lady the other day and she said she was feeling anxious. And all she done was told me, I need to take the bin out, I need to wipe that side down, or I need to get dinner out. So then we discussed dinner. And it was just a 10-15 minute chat about what she's doing with her day, the fact she's going for a walk, she's going to meet up with a friend. And at the end of that conversation, she just went, I feel so much better now. That to some people is like, that's not a crisis. But to that person it was. And if phoning me for 10, 15, even 5 minutes is going to help you feel that bit better, then you should. No one should be judging if it's a crisis or not. Something small to you could be something huge to someone else. Not judging is absolutely the key. If you feel like you need someone, if you need to talk to someone, there are so many places out there, and there are different organisations for different things as well. If you're elderly, if you're young, if you're middle-aged, a mum, single, sexuality, you name it, disabilities, there is something out there for everybody to get the help that they do need. And making that phone call is the hardest thing that you will do. But you will thank yourself later when you realise the support and the help that is out there for you.
So thank you. Great to leave it on a high note, and thank you for everything you're doing. We're really grateful that you're in the company. This is Gabby signing off with the Brave Talks, and we will look forward to seeing you next time.